In this episode, we take a look at authentic automobile colors, as well as take a look at what might be the mecca of Soo Line locomotives, as well as finish up this old piece of trash, the Matchbox garbage truck. Can listen to what the curmudgeon's gripe of the week is this week. All in this episode of SOO The Milwaukee Road. I recently had the opportunity to check out the Great Train Show down in Shakopee, Minnesota. There's some railroad setup as well as some vendors selling. Here we got a Rapido N-scale passenger train. I just thought it was kind of cool. As well as this Lego setup. I mean, to each to their own. Not everybody's into Legos, but it's worth checking out. And for you Milwaukee roaders out there, how about this baby highballing? Now, I didn't pick up much at the show, but one of the items that I did was this 1967 Dodge Charger by Classic Metal Works. I didn't really care for the color, so I dropped it in to dip it and strip it. I used the isopropyl alcohol to be able to soften the paint, as well as a toothbrush to be able to remove it completely. Alright, it's been dipped, it's been stripped, and it's going to get ready for paint. I cleaned it up just a little bit more so we get it down to the bare metal, but we got to pick a color. I end up using the PPG color sheets. It's a great source. You can Google these and find them on the old interweb. And I end up using, again, this Classic Mini Metals. They did a yellow, which is the one I had purchased. They also did a bright red. They did a light blue. And then the last one they had done was a silver. I ended up looking for something a little bit more unique, so I looked on a used car site and found this one here, which was the medium turquoise. Can you guess what year this shot was captured? Was it A, 1969, B, 1974, C, 1978, or D, 1984? We'll find the answer later in this episode. Let's get this thing painted. I used painter's tape to be able to adhere the car to a stick to be able to get it primed up. I used Tamiya primer, or Tamiya primer, depends on how you pronounce it. And TS60 Pearl Green was as close as I could get to that turquoise. As I've shot the car up in the green, I'm going to let it sit aside and dry. And while it's drying, I end up moving on to adding a little flat black into the recesses of the wheels. This technique can be used on all kinds of your vehicles. Now, I'd highly recommend at least doing this to your vehicles instead of just dropping them right on the railroad, because this at least tones it down and takes that toy-like look away from the vehicle itself. I add license plate and windshield wipers and all kinds of other stuff. Drawbar! This is just a very subtle technique, a little black paint, and as you can see here, I use a shop towel and just lightly wipe away the very top layer, and you end up with a nice finished product like this here. And I said I'd take the details a little too far. I took the interior out, painted it, put seat belts in.
He's lost it.
End up painting the dash as well, and end up replacing the steering wheel. As you can see inside the car there, I end up making a brass steering wheel and replacing the big plastic one. Let's take things a little too far. This might be a little too far, but what we've got here is a custom set of printed decals that I put together for the Dodge Charger. These were printed by Precision Design Company by Bill Brillinger. He does a phenomenal job. His attention to detail is great, and I'm able to create stuff now and make things just look that much cooler. Now, I realize you could put just a little red blob of paint, but how accurate is that circle and little dot when you can use the actual logo?
Mopar nuts, notice.
And yes, in 67 it was gold, and 68 it was red, but I went with red and I don't care.
Something other people don't care about are license plates.
But this is a detail that adds so much. Microscale actually makes a set of decals, which are totally worth adding to spruce the car up. So to take the car from the old yellow to old turquoise. Ends up being a nice looking ride, something a little bit more unique and different for the railroad, as well as having an accurate color. It's definitely a lot more than most model railroaders would dive into, but I look at vehicles like a supporting cast of your railroad, and why not have at least a decent looking supporting cast? Alright, diving into one of my favorite things. It's actually the Soo Line GP30s, and someone that has modeled all of them, none other than Mr. Bob Rivard, who had my dad and I over to be able to check out his railroad as well as talk modeling. Talk about inspiration. You take a look at all the models that Bob has done. As I mentioned, he did all the GP30s, but he's pretty darn close between him and Luke Lemons of having the entire Soo roster. You guys got a few more locos yet to do, but these things are a thing of beauty. Definitely worth checking out. It was a lot of fun to be able to talk about the Soo Line as well as just different modeling techniques.
Ooh, here's a 10-second tip.
Want to know how to prevent loads from sliding around?
See, I put little pins out of that go through the string. What do you call the stringers for the forklift to get under?
Thanks a lot, Bob. Just some simple pins to be able to hold the load from sliding left to right. And as I slide from left to right through the aisleways of the railroad itself, checking out all the layers and all the detail, it is incredible. This is just one inspirational opportunity to be able to see what a fellow modeler is doing and the details that he dives into. One of the flat cars that he actually pointed out here, Ken Soros's book had a set of trucks. I believe he said they're STL 39s. Well, this one here has got a couple of locomotive trucks on the flat car that Bob modeled. And the detail here, look at this bulkhead. He ended up putting the wood pieces on to make it look a little bit more realistic.
Nailed it.
And Bob recently switched to DCC. As you can see, he had a cab-controlled system in the DC world. He turns all of his cabs to one indicator, which in this case is green, and he's all powered up for DCC. He's had a lot of success and a lot of fun with being able to put decoders into locomotives, and instead of just sitting here talking about it, we're going to end up showing you. Bob ended up lining up a couple of trains and sets up a meet, which will take place in Cardigan that is sitting here before us. So let's kick back and take a couple minutes to watch a few run-bys. If you're able to pick up and hear that angelic voice in the background, no, it's not Bob Rivard singing. That just happens to be the radio that got left on, so we apologize. Do you think you know what year this photo was captured, or did you just guess like you did on your 10th grade biology exams? The answer would be C, 1978. As classic as that photo was, this location does still exist and has rail action on a regular basis. Well, look here, a Matchbox garbage truck. I seem to recall somebody saying you shouldn't roll the Matchbox vehicles on your railroad.
I tell you right now, you kind of want to avoid the Hot Wheel and Matchbox world if you're trying to get a real-looking scene.
And to that I say,
take out the papers and the trash.
well, it's back. If you recall, we were stripping this garbage truck to turn it into something a little bit more unique. We put that Athearn C-Series cab on. I ended up measuring it up to be able to put some custom decals together for this thing. And, well, let's take a look at how it turned out.
Seems like a common theme. You strip every vehicle you get.
Hey-o!
Gotcha.
Well, I shot the cab into a baby blue and end up weathering the rear of the garbage truck. And what I do is take just a little bit of chalk on the end of a soft bristled brush. I lightly go over the entire vehicle just to be able to kind of draw out the details. And there you have it. You can see just a little bit of the details that are involved in the casting of this Matchbox car. As well as details, these are the decals. I end up doing the tail lights and a few other things like the signs on the side, as well as swapping out the mirrors. These are Plano Model Products mirrors that I end up putting on. The etched mirror just looks a lot better than the cast Athearn factory mirror.
Yeah, it does.
We might as well look at this thing in its natural environment. And one could argue the curmudgeon missed the boat on this one. This Matchbox car doesn't look half bad. And yeah, sure, a lot of updates had to take place, but when it really comes down to having vehicles on your railroad that are unique and different, sometimes it takes that customization. And my philosophy is, if I custom paint it, the manufacturer will make it. So I'm looking forward to Athearn producing their garbage truck super detailed, and you guys will be able to reap the benefits.
Alright, the curmudgeon's coming at you for the gripe of the week. This week it's gonna be track cleaning. You got people belly aching about what they use to clean their track. And if they're gonna clean their track, they say, oh, you gotta use a bright bulb, you gotta use this, you gotta use masonite, you gotta use alcohol, you gotta use. It gets a little insane, I tell you right now. If you're asking the curmudgeon what he uses, I use a little elbow grease or dolphin tears, one or the other. I prefer the dolphin tears, but they're kinda hard to come by. When it really comes down to cleaning your track, use whatever lets the locomotive roll better. That's what I say. Just get her nice and polished clean. And that's it for the curmudgeon's gripe of the week. You gotta use. It gets a little insane.
Be sure and hit the like button. You can click here to subscribe. You can also check out other episodes of SOO The Milwaukee Road, as well as take the tour of the GN in 1970.